What are we doing? Today we're doing a quick gut reaction to the NFL draft. No grades, just the straight poop on the storylines that could affect your fantasy football teams. Whose stock took a face-first header into an empty pool? And where can you find the late round value? We're breaking down every division into their own video. This is the NFC East. Welcome to Shut Up Football. I'm Jeff Stoltzfus. That's Kevin. And if you're into unqualified speculation about men careening into each other for sport, this is the place for you. How do you like your apples? Big? New York Football Giants. The Giants got offensive in the third round with wide receiver Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. They definitely needed some wide receiver help. Hyatt is 6 foot, 178 pounds, and runs a 4.4, though his game speed looks even faster at times. The Giants' wide receiver depth chart is confusing. None of these dudes tickle my fancy. My fancy remains untickled. Hyatt's competition is Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, last year's second-round pick Wan'Dale Robinson, and whatever is left of Sterling Shepard. Oh, and Darren Waller, because he's Darren Waller, and they traded for him. I think Hyatt is a decent receiver and good for the Giants, but I'm not thrilled about him for fantasy. His ability feels very boomer busty when it comes to fantasy points. I don't see him getting a lot of volume or being a red zone target. Drafting him didn't look like a priority as much as it did just filling a niche role because he fell to them. And I wonder how much run he'll get in his rookie year. I like the talent, but I need a discount. In the 5th round, they grabbed running back Eric Gray out of Oklahoma. A lot of people were very high on Eric Gray. Or just high, because I didn't think he was that great. The issue I had with him is he lacks top-end speed. On a lot of plays, good plays, Gray was tackled instead of sprinting to the end zone because he just doesn't have that extra gear. And it's not like he's heavy. He's listed at 5'10", 207 pounds. Pretty light to be so slow. Now that I've poo-pooed all over Eric Gray, hear me out. Nobody in the Giants' backfield is a threat to Saquon Barkley. But the competition behind Barkley is Matt Breida and Gary Brightwell. If Barkley were to get injured, could Eric Gray make his way through this backfield and be valuable? Eric Gray has lateral quickness, good vision, and he makes good cuts. He's got moves. He can make people miss, and he can move with power. I think Gary Brightwell has the edge over Gray right now, but only slightly. I'm not saying roster him. Just put him on your watch list. He's never going to be a starter, but if you're hunting for depth in deep leagues, he's worth keeping tabs on. The only undrafted free agent I recognized was wide receiver Bryce Ford Wheaton from West Virginia. 6'4", 221 pounds, and ran a 4.38. That's pretty impressive. In fact, that's pretty amazing that a guy that big can move that fast and still not get drafted, which is probably a big fat red flag. I'm not sure what scouts didn't like about him. The only thing I saw was he wasn't great at getting separation off the line, which feels more like a technical thing. Could that be coached up? Maybe a few months of Brian Daboll screaming in his face will help him. Or destroy him. It could go either way. He's another name to keep an eye on, and if he makes the team, I'm interested in stashing him because the cost will be nothing, and the upside could be something. Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys let tight end Dalton Schultz out the door, leaving them with only Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot. Both are good, neither are great. And honestly, Schultz was okay, but the boys were looking for a little more juice at the position. They're looking for their own Travis Kelce. So in the 2nd round, they drafted Luke Schoonmaker out of Michigan. 6'5", 251 pounds. He's super athletic. He's got an RAS of 9.86. Anybody who invested in Jake Ferguson last year can dump their shares into the ocean. I don't see any reason that Luke Schoonmaker shouldn't start day 1 in camp. He might not be the best tight end in this class, but he's exactly what I'm looking for in a fantasy tight end. A large frame with a wide catch radius that's super athletic. He could struggle as a rookie, but I'm not looking to start him. Long term? Hell yes. Sign me up for yardage, volume, red zone looks. I want all of it. Strap me to the bed and spoon feed me shares of Luke Schoonmaker. I hate that he's a Cowboy, but pew pew pew, sign me up. In the 6th round, they took a flyer on Deuce Vaughn. I mean, I love Deuce Vaughn, but he's 5'5", 179 pounds. What are we supposed to do with that? He's legit good, but right now the Cowboys' running back depth is Tony Pollard, Malik Davis, and Ronald Jones. I don't know if they'd roster him as a fourth. He's probably doomed for the practice squad. I mean, I can't bet on a guy that makes Boston Scott look big. They took wide receiver Jalen Brooks in the 7th. I don't think that's anything. His comp was Geronimo Allison. I don't expect him to climb over anybody at the bottom of this depth chart. As for the UDFA group, they picked up another wide receiver of note, Jalen Moreno-Cropper from Fresno State. He's got some good speed, but also again, probably not making the roster. Washington Commanders. No, that's stupid. Well, this is boring. The Commanders went defense and offensive line. Probably the smart thing to do, but there's not much to go over. They picked up a running back in the 6th round, Chris Rodriguez out of Kentucky. I really think that's nothing. First off, they have everything they need with Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson Jr. I think Jaron Patterson is still on the roster too. Chris Rodriguez is nothing more than a battering ram. I wouldn't bother with him in fantasy. As for the UDFAs, oh god, even their undrafted players are boring. I guess that means fire up all of last year's starters again. Sell Sam Howell by midseason, stash Jacoby Brissett for depth, keep an eye on tight ends John Bates and Cole Turner in camp, but probably not. Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles had a phenomenal draft. Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith in the 1st round. Shame on you, league, for letting this happen. But as you can see, I'm okay with it. Both are monsters. Both are going to be good for IDP. Eventually. Remember, the Eagles' line is stacked, so at best, barring injury, they're going to be rotational players this year. The Eagles and GM Howie Roseman have done a good job of drafting prior to need, and that's how guys like Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean fall to them. I had them taking Jalen Carter at 10, and they got him at 9. Why couldn't they wait one pick? FOMO? All I know is that the cost wasn't too much, and all they gave up to move up one spot was a 4th rounder next year, which doesn't much matter when you realize they have multiple compensatory picks for next year. They got more O-line depth with Tyler Steen and some more defensive pieces. Then in the 6th, they took quarterback Tanner McKee out of Stanford. And that is the one thing in this draft I just don't get. McKee is a tall drink of water, 6'6". He's got a good arm. He's not very athletic. He's about as mobile as a dead horse. I just don't understand the pick. Can he beat out Ian Book for the 3rd QB spot? Yeah, probably. I don't see the fit for the Eagles, though. Other than being large enough to do the tush push, I was hoping they'd get Dorian Thompson-Robinson or Jalen Hall, which were already gone by round 6. The only QB to go later was Max Duggan to the Chargers in the 7th, and I can't make the case for Duggan over McKee. Just an odd late-round pick. The Eagles did get some decent UDFAs. Nothing for fantasy. I'm glad to see they added a punter. I think that was a need. Cornerback Eli Ricks seemed to be a popular one. The only one I found worth watching was linebacker Ben Van Sumeren. He started out as a running back and transitioned to linebacker at Michigan State, and I support his transition. He got an RAS of 9.65, so he's crazy athletic. I think the Birds need linebacker depth. They let TJ Edwards walk this offseason. He was also an undrafted free agent. I wanted a wide receiver, but they didn't get one. Not the end of the world. They grabbed Olamide Zaccheaus in free agency. He replaces Zach Pascal and threatens Quez Watkins' role immediately. I was really hoping they picked up a running back in this draft, but they didn't quite have the draft picks to do it. Luckily, the Lions gave DeAndre Swift away, and the cost really wasn't that much. They swapped 7th-round picks, I believe, and they gave up a 4th-rounder next year, which again means nothing to the Birds because of the compensatory picks. Don't freak out if you have Rashad Penny. They're both going to get some run here, and honestly, neither will stay healthy all year anyway. Between the two, the Eagles are set. I'd rather have Swift in fantasy due to the passing upside, and there's no reason to suspect that Penny's going to get a bunch of goal line work when the Eagles use Jalen Hurts so much there. But they'll both get fed. It feels like Kenny Gainwell is the big loser here. But he finished the year so well, I can't imagine he's all the way dead. I think they're going to split this backfield up 3 different ways. And Gainwell does have some passing upside too. Maybe because of the congestion and confusion here, you can snag one of these guys in a trade. Think of it as depth or a bye-week insurance. Remember, all 3 are going to be running behind a great offensive line, and if one of them gets injured, the others will all benefit. Boston Scott is still what he was, and Trey Sermon is just never going to be a thing. He's just not. We're breaking down the draft by every division, so make sure to check out the other videos as well. Post your comments below, subscribe, like the video, say hi to your mom for me. We'll see you next time. Peace!
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.
I'm gonna finish this in less than 12 parsecs. My water's broken! No, I'm good.